The rain hammered against the worn shingles of Jack Miller's small Victorian house in the outskirts of Chicago, each drop a percussive reminder of yet another repair he couldn't afford. Water found its way through a persistent leak in the upstairs hallway, the steady drip, 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 keeping time like a melancholy metronome. At 35, Jack's calloused hands told the story of a man who fixed other people's problems for a living, but struggled to repair his own life. He finished taping the handwritten sign to the front window. Room for rent, $100 a month. Inquire within. The words felt like surrender. 2 years after losing Sarah to cancer, the medical bills still haunted him, and Ethan needed new shoes again. 6-year-olds seemed designed to outgrow everything clothes, shoes, and the careful explanations adults crafted about why their mothers weren't coming back. A sudden crack of thunder shook the house. Jack glanced upstairs, knowing Ethan would be hiding under his dinosaur blanket. The boy had hated storms ever since the night they'd gotten the call about Sarah's final turn. Rain and grief had become permanently linked in his young mind. Jack was heading upstairs when he heard a soft knock, almost lost beneath the storm's rage. He paused, wondering if he'd imagined it. Then it came again, more desperate this time. When he opened the door, she was just a Guito at first, a slender figure huddled beneath the porch overhang. Blonde hair clung to her face in the wet strands, and her clothes were soaked through. She clutched a scuffed black suitcase like it contained everything she had left in the world. Perhaps it did. I'm not asking for a handout. Her voice wavered between pride and desperation. I just need somewhere to sleep tonight. Jack's hand tightened on the doorframe. She was young, maybe early 20s, and visibly out of place in this neighborhood. Her jeans were designer beneath the rain stains, and even drenched her sweater hung with the distinct drape of expensive fabric. You lost? The question came out gruffer than he'd intended. She shook her head, rainwater flinging from her hair. No, I saw the sign in your window about the room. Her eyes darted past him, seeking shelter from more than just the storm. I've got cash. She pulled out a wad of damp bills from her pocket. 200, all of it. I can pay for the first month now. Something about her didn't add up. Her accent was refined, her posture too straight for someone truly desperate. Yet the fear in her eyes was real, the kind that comes from running from something worse than bad weather. Jack thought of Ethan upstairs, trusting and vulnerable. He thought of Sarah, who never turned away someone in need. He thought of his empty bank account. You got a name? His breath fogged in the cold night air. She hesitated just a fraction too long. Emma, just Emma. Jack scratched the back of his neck, feeling the rain begin to soak through his shirt. Behind the door, the heater hummed, reminder of another bill that he could barely afford. All right, come on in. He stepped aside. But leave your shoes by the door. Floors creak. Emma stood slowly, lifting the suitcase with a wince. She stepped inside like she was crossing into sacred ground, her movements cautious, as if the modest home might disappear if she moved too quickly. The scent of rain followed her in, mixed with something faintly floral, an expensive perfume that seemed at odds with her current state. Jack flipped on the hallway light, illuminating the modest interior. 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, hardwood floors worn from years of use, and furniture that had seen multiple owners before him, but clean, lived in. This is your room, Jack said, leading her down the hall. Small, but the bed's good. Sheets are clean. Emma stepped in, still clutching the suitcase. Thank you, she whispered, voice soft as if she'd forgotten how to accept kindness. Bathroom's down the hall. Kitchen's yours to use. Just label your stuff in the fridge. She nodded, taking in the simple room with its twin bed and faded blue curtains. I've got a 6-year-old, Jack added. Ethan? Good kid. I don't bring strangers around much. I won't be any trouble, she said. I swear. Jack studied her. There was no desperation in her tone, just something steadier, a quiet resolve that didn't match her bedraggled appearance. We'll figure the rest out tomorrow, he said, then returned with a folded towel and extra blanket. Emma accepted them with hands that trembled slightly. For a moment, her composed facade cracked, and her eyes glistened with unshed tears. I mean it. Thank you. The words carried the weight of someone who understood their own good fortune. Jack nodded. Night, Emma. In the kitchen, he poured himself a glass of water, staring out the rain-speckled window. He should have asked more questions, checked ID, done anything a responsible father would do. But something about her felt honest, despite all the signs that she wasn't telling him everything. A magnet on the refrigerator held one of Ethan's crayon drawings, a crooked house with two stick figures beneath a smiling sun. Two, not three. Sarah had been gone for 2 years, but Ethan still sometimes drew her in his pictures, a floating figure with wings above them. This drawing had no angels, just emptiness where a third person should be. Jack drained his glass. Sometimes people just need a chance. And sometimes the ones who show up on your porch in the rain are the ones who change everything. Morning arrived with weak sunlight filtering through the faded curtains. Jack passed by Emma's door, still closed, and made his way to the kitchen. As the coffee brewed, small footsteps padded down the stairs. Ethan appeared in dinosaur pajamas, hair sticking up in all directions. "Morning, buddy," Jack said, ruffling his son's hair. "Sleep okay through the storm?" Ethan nodded, climbing onto a kitchen chair. "I heard someone come in last night." His voice was curious, not afraid. "Yeah, her name's Emma. She's staying in the guest room for a while." Ethan's eyes widened with interest. "Is she nice?" "Seems polite enough." Jack placed a bowl of cereal in front of his son. "She might still be sleeping, so let's keep it down, okay?" The soft creak of a door interrupted them. Emma emerged from the guest room, her appearance transformed from the night before. Her blonde hair was tied back in a neat bun, and her clothes, the same ones Jack noted, were somehow clean and dry. She carried the folded blanket and towel in her arms. "Good morning," she said, her voice gentle, but no longer shaking. "I washed these." "You didn't have to," Jack replied, surprised. "I know." A small smile touched her lips. Force of habit. Ethan peered at her from behind his cereal bowl, curiosity written across his face. Emma noticed and crouched to meet his eye level. "You must be Ethan. I'm Emma." "I'm 6, he declared proudly, holding up the corresponding fingers. "Well, 6 is a great age," she replied with genuine warmth. "I was 6 once, too." Ethan laughed, the sound brightening the kitchen more effectively than the morning sun. Jack watched the interaction with cautious relief. Emma spoke to Ethan like he was a person, not a child. No condescension, no overly sweet tone, just straightforward respect. "Coffee?" Jack offered, gesturing to the pot. "That would be wonderful." Their fingers brushed as he handed her a mug. Jack noticed her hands soft, uncalloused, with a faint tan line where a ring might have been. Not wedding too thin for that. Something expensive, though. "Do you like dinosaurs?" Ethan asked, suddenly pointing to his pajamas. Emma took a thoughtful sip before answering. "I like the ones that fly. Pterodactyls. They could see everything from up high but still had to come down to earth sometimes." Jack raised an eyebrow at the unexpected depth of her answer. Ethan nodded solemnly as if she'd passed some crucial test. "Do you work with cars like Dad?" Ethan's questions continued, determined to categorize their new houseguest. "I'm a mechanic," Jack explained when Emma glanced at him, "at Miller's Auto Shop downtown." "No, I don't work with cars," Emma told Ethan, "but maybe your dad could teach me something about them sometime." Jack found himself nodding, though he wasn't sure why. There was something both vulnerable and determined about Emma, like someone used to having everything done for her who was suddenly learning to do things herself. "What about you?" Jack asked. "What do you do?" The question was casual but pointed. Emma's fingers tightened around the mug. "I was in administration, office work, but I'm between jobs right now." The hesitation was subtle but unmistakable. Another piece that didn't fit. After breakfast, Jack helped Ethan prepare for school. Emma made herself scarce, reappearing only to wish the boy a good day as they headed out the door. Her smile seemed genuine when Ethan waved goodbye, but there was something wistful in her eyes, as if watching a scene from a movie she'd never starred in. "I'll be back after I drop him off," Jack said. "We should talk about arrangements." Emma nodded. "I'll be here." When Jack returned 20 minutes later, he found Emma in the kitchen washing the breakfast dishes with methodical precision. "You really don't have to do that," he said, leaning against the doorframe. "I want to earn my keep." She didn't look up from her task. "I know the room's only part of it." Jack studied her profile, the straight nose, the determined set of her jaw. Classic features, the kind that belonged on magazine covers or charity gala photographs, not in his dingy kitchen washing cereal bowls. "So Emma, just Emma," he began. "Where are you from?" Her hands stilled in the soapy water. "Does it matter?" "It might, yeah. I've got a kid to think about." She turned off the faucet and dried her hands, buying time. "I'm from Lake Forest originally, North Shore." Jack whistled low. One of the wealthiest suburbs of Chicago where mansions lined the lake and the average income was well into six figures. Long way from there to here. Emma's shoulders tensed. Sometimes the shortest distance between 2 points isn't a straight line. That's some fancy way of not answering my question. She faced him fully now, chin raised slightly. I left home. I needed a place to stay. Your sign was in the window. The rest isn't relevant. Jack crossed his arms. See, that's where you're wrong. I let you into my house last night because you were soaked and it was storming. But now I need to know who's sleeping down the hall from my son. A flash of something respect perhaps crossed her face. That's fair. I'm not running from the law if that's what you're asking. I'm not in danger. I'm just starting over. At 20 what? 22. 23, she corrected. And yes, is that so hard to believe? Jack thought about his own life at 23, marrying Sarah thinking they had everything figured out. The future spread before them like an endless highway. Then Sarah's diagnosis 2 years ago and the swift, brutal end to all their plans. No, he admitted. It's not hard to believe at all. Emma seemed to relax slightly. I have 2 months' rent, she offered. I'll find a job. I'll help around the house. I'm a good cook, actually. Rich girl who can cook. Now that is hard to believe. A genuine smile flickered across her face, transforming her features. My mother's housekeeper taught me. In secret. Mother thought it was beneath me. The casual mention of a housekeeper confirmed Jack's suspicions. Whoever Emma was, she came from money, serious money, and she was running from it, not toward it. I'm not going to pry into why you left, Jack said finally. That's your business, but here's at mine. I work 6 days a week at the garage. Ethan's in first grade. He goes to after-school program until I pick him up at 5:30. We're not fancy, we're not complicated, but we're stable. I need to keep it that way for him. Emma nodded, absorbing his words. So if you've got drama that's going to follow you here, X's drugs, whatever I need to know now. No drugs, she said firmly. No X's, no drama of that sort. Jack noted the careful phrasing. But other sorts. Emma looked away. Nothing that will endanger you or Ethan, I promise. It wasn't a complete answer, but it was honest in its incompleteness. Jack could respect that. All right then, $100 a month help with utilities. The $200 you gave me covers first month plus deposit. You cook sometimes, I'll cook sometimes. Ethan's off limits for babysitting until I know you better. That work? More than fair, she agreed, relief evident in her voice. One more thing, Jack added. Eventually you're going to tell me the real story. When you are ready. Emma met his gaze steadily. Eventually, she conceded. When I'm ready. Days turned into a week, and Emma settled into the Miller household with surprising ease. She kept to herself when Jack was home, emerging mainly for meals, or when Ethan specifically sought her out. But evidence of her presence accumulated: freshly dusted bookshelves, organized kitchen cabinets, a vase of inexpensive grocery store flowers on the dining table. Jack returned from work one evening to find Ethan and Emma at the kitchen table, heads bent together over a sheet of paper. Ethan was drawing, his tongue caught between his teeth in concentration, while Emma watched with encouragement. That's it, she was saying. Now add the details that make it special to you. Neither noticed Jack in the doorway, giving him a moment to observe them unaware. Emma's posture was relaxed, her smile genuine, as she watched Ethan work. There was nothing performative in her interaction with the boy, just natural patience and interest. What's the masterpiece? Jack finally asked, stepping into the kitchen. Ethan looked up, face brightening. Dad, I'm drawing our family for school. Jack's heart clenched as he approached the table. Ethan had drawn 3 figures in front of a house, a tall one labeled Dad, a small one labeled me, and a medium one with yellow hair labeled Emma. Emma's cheeks flushed. It's for his family tree project, she explained quickly. I told him he should draw you and himself and maybe his mom in heaven, but he insisted. It's okay, Jack said, though his chest felt tight. It's your drawing, buddy. You decide who goes in it. Ethan beamed, adding final touches to the picture. Ms. Peterson said family is the people who take care of each other. Emma makes pancakes and helps with spelling. That's taking care. The simple logic of children sometimes cut closest to the truth. Jack caught Emma's eye over Ethan's head, seeing her discomfort, but also something else, a touched vulnerability she couldn't quite hide. Pancakes, huh? Jack raised an eyebrow. You've been holding out on me. Only on Saturdays when you work early, Emma admitted. Ethan showed me where everything is. She makes them in shapes, Ethan added enthusiastically, like dinosaurs and stars. Jack hung his jacket on the back of a chair. Well, now I'm jealous. I get cereal and the kid gets dinosaur pancakes. Emma's expression softened into a tentative smile. I could make them for everyone this weekend. The offer hung in the air, simple words carrying the weight of inclusion of tentative bonds forming. Jack nodded, surprised by how much he wanted to accept this small overture. Deal, but I warn you, my pancake standards are high. Later that night, after Ethan was asleep, Jack found himself drawn to the refrigerator, studying the drawing in the dim kitchen light. The three figures held hands floating above green grass beneath a yellow sun. It looked nothing like the painful reality of the past 2 years. The lonely dinners, the bedtime stories choked through tears, the emptiness of the house after Ethan fell asleep. I'm sorry if that made you uncomfortable, Emma said softly from the doorway, a borrowed book in her hands. I never meant to insert myself into your family picture. It's not that, Jack said, surprising himself with his honesty. It's just seeing him happy enough to draw something like this. It's been a while. Emma nodded, understanding in her eyes. He talks about his mom sometimes. When you're not around, he's afraid it makes you sad. The revelation hit Jack like a physical blow. He said that, not in those words, but children sense these things. Emma took a step into the kitchen. He told me she had pretty hair and read the best bedtime stories, that she's a star and watching over him. Jack's throat tightened. That's what I told him when she died, that she became a star. It's a beautiful way to explain it. Emma's voice was soft. He's lucky to have a father who helps him remember her with love, not just sadness. The observation was unexpectedly perceptive. Jack had worked hard to keep Sarah alive in Ethan's memory without drowning the boy in his own grief. It was a delicate balance he hadn't known he was achieving. I'm trying, was all he could manage. Emma hesitated, then said, My mother had a collection of first edition books, worth thousands each, but I'd trade them all for one memory of her reading me a bedtime story. The confession emerged unprompted, a small piece of her mystery voluntarily revealed. Jack waited, sensing there was more. Parents aren't always present, even when they're physically there. She continued, her fingers tracing the worn spine of the book she held. Ethan doesn't just know he's loved, he feels it every day. That's rare. Jack studied her in the dim kitchen light, this young woman with old eyes, who spoke of wealth as if it were poverty. Your parents, he began carefully. They're still alive, yes. Emma's smile didn't reach her eyes. Very much alive and probably very angry right now. It was the closest she'd come to explaining why she'd appeared on his doorstep. Jack decided not to push further tonight. Each small revelation was a brick removed from the wall she'd built around herself. Well, he said, gesturing to the drawing, if pancake making earns you a spot on the fridge, I'd better step up my game. I'm thinking of installing that ceiling fan this weekend. That might at least get me top billing. The attempt at lightness worked. Emma's smile turned genuine. I'm an excellent flashlight holder if you need an assistant. I might take you up on that. She nodded, taking a step back toward the hallway. Good night, Jack. Good night, Emma, just Emma. The nickname made her pause, a small laugh escaping her. It was the first time he'd heard that sound from her, soft and unguarded. Then she was gone, disappearing back to her room, leaving Jack with the strange feeling that his kitchen somehow felt less empty than it had in years. The weekend brought unseasonably warm weather for early spring, perfect for the home improvement projects Jack had been postponing. Emma proved true to her word about the pancakes, producing a breakfast spread that had Ethan bouncing with excitement and Jack raising impressed eyebrows at perfectly formed dinosaur shapes. Where'd you learn to do this? He asked, watching her flip a triceratops with expert precision. YouTube, she admitted. The first few were disasters. She practiced when you were at work, Ethan chimed in, mouthful of pancake. The garbage disposal ate a lot of dinosaurs. Jack laughed, catching Emma's embarrassed smile. The image of this clearly well-bred young woman determinedly practicing pancake art in his dated kitchen was both amusing and strangely touching. After breakfast, Jack gathered his tools while Emma helped Ethan with homework. He was on the stepladder in the living room, wiring the new ceiling fan, when he heard them in the adjacent dining room. "That's not how you spell because," Emma was saying gently. "Sound it out with me." "Becuz," Ethan recited. "Close. It's one of those tricky words that doesn't follow the rules. Because. "But that doesn't make sense," Ethan protested. "It should be like it sounds." "I agree," Emma replied. "English has many inconsistencies in its orthography." She stopped herself. "In how words are spelled versus how they sound. It's frustrating, but it helps to have memory tricks." Jack paused in his wiring, struck by her self-correction. She'd automatically begun speaking with academic vocabulary, then adjusted to terms a 6-year-old would understand. Another piece that didn't match her office work background. "Let's try a memory sentence," Emma continued. "Big elephants can always understand small elephants." Because. "Big elephants can always understand small elephants," Ethan repeated, giggling. "I like elephants." "Me too. Intelligent animals with strong family bonds. The babies stay with their mothers for years, learning everything they need to know." Jack resumed working, mulling over what he'd heard. Emma spoke about education with the easy confidence of someone well-educated herself. The way she structured explanations, her patience, her natural ability to make learning engaging, these weren't skills typically found in office administration. Later that afternoon, while Ethan played outside with the neighbor's kid, Emma appeared in the living room with 2 glasses of water. She handed one to Jack, who had moved on to painting touch-ups around the new fan fixture. "Thanks," he said, taking a grateful sip. "Didn't realize how thirsty I was." "It looks good," Emma said, glancing up at his work. "Much better than the old one." "Yeah, that thing was probably original to the house. Wobbled so bad I was afraid it would fall on us in our sleep." She perched on the arm of the couch watching him work. "You're good at this, fixing things." "Occupational habit?" Jack shrugged. "Cars, houses, they're just puzzles with parts." "Is that why you became a mechanic?" Jack considered the question as he dipped his brush in paint. "Partly. I've always liked understanding how things work, but mostly I did it because cars don't lie. They either run or they don't. Problems have solutions. Turn the key and you know immediately if you fixed it right." Emma nodded, seeming to understand the appeal of such straightforward cause and effect. "What about you?" Jack asked. "What made you choose administration?" He emphasized the word slightly, letting her know he wasn't entirely convinced by her story. Emma's fingers tightened around her water glass. "It was expected. By your parents in Lake Forest." A small, tight nod. "The family business needed a loyal employee in the right position." "And what business is that?" Jack pressed gently. Emma stood moving toward the window to watch Ethan playing outside. "Real estate development primarily. Very successful, very aggressive in its growth strategies." "Sounds profitable." "Extremely." Something hardened in her voice. "At any cost." The bitterness in those 3 words told Jack more than a lengthy explanation might have. Whatever had driven Emma from her privileged life, it had something to do with ethical qualms about her family's business practices. "And you didn't want to be part of that," he suggested, filling in the blanks. Emma turned back to him, her expression guarded. "I tried to change things from the inside. It didn't work." Jack set down his paintbrush. "So you just walked away from all of it?" "Not exactly how I'd planned it," she admitted. "But yes, I left." The simple statement carried the weight of what must have been an agonizing decision. Jack recognized the courage it took to abandon the path laid out for you, especially one paved with wealth and security. "For what it's worth," he said, "I think that takes guts." Surprise flickered across her face, followed by a tentative smile. "Thank you. Not everyone would see it that way." "Well, I'm not an everyone." Jack resumed painting. "And neither are you, Emma, just Emma." The following day, Jack received a call from the garage. His boss, Mike, sounded apologetic but firm. "Take a few days off, Jack. Paid leave. Business is slow and—" He hesitated. "I had some guys in suits asking questions about you yesterday. Might want to lay low till whatever this is blows over. Jack's stomach tightened. What kind of questions? About a young woman staying with you. They said they were family, but something didn't sit right. I didn't tell them anything. Mike paused. You in some kind of trouble, Jack? Not me, Jack said, watching Emma through the kitchen and doorway as she helped Ethan with a school project. But maybe someone I know. After ending the call, Jack stood in the hallway weighing his options. Emma was in deeper than she'd let on, and whatever she was running from had found them. He needed the full story now. One morning as Jack prepared for work, Ethan burst into the bathroom, excitement overriding the closed-door policy. Dad, look what I found. In his palm lay a small, glittering object, a silver hair clip inlaid with what appeared to be real diamonds, arranged in a delicate floral pattern. Where did you get that? Jack asked, toothbrush forgotten in his hand. It was under the sink, Ethan explained. I dropped my dinosaur and found it when I was looking for him. Diamond. Jack took the clip, examining it carefully. The craftsmanship was exquisite, the stones catching light in a way that costume jewelry never did. This was the real thing, probably worth more than he made in a month. We should give this back to Emma, he said. It must be hers. Us. They found her in the kitchen preparing Ethan's lunch for school. Her face went pale when she saw what Jack held. Where did you? She stopped herself, composure returning quickly. I've been looking for that. Ethan found it under the bathroom sink, Jack explained, handing it over. Pretty fancy hardware. Emma took the clip, fingers closing around it protectively. It was a gift, she said, simply tucking it into her pocket. From someone important, Jack couldn't help asking. A shadow crossed her face. From my mother, for my 16th birthday. Ethan, sensing the adult tension but not understanding it, tugged at Emma's sleeve. Is it real diamonds, like in the movies? Emma crouched to his level, her smile returning. Yes, it is. A small piece from my old life. Are you a princess? Ethan asked with childlike directness. You have princess things. Emma laughed softly. No, Ethan, I'm not a princess. I just came from a place where people had more than they needed. But you left, he persisted, like in the stories where princesses run away from the castle. Jack watched Emma's face, curious how she would answer. I left, she agreed carefully, because sometimes even castles aren't as nice as they look from the outside. Sometimes small houses with people who care about each other are much better places to live. Ethan considered this. So our house is better than a castle. Much better, Emma confirmed. Your dad built something here that no amount of money can buy. She glanced up at Jack as she said it, and the sincerity in her eyes made him look away, uncomfortable with the praise. That evening, Jack arrived home to find the house filled with the rich aroma of slow-cooked beef and herbs. In the kitchen, Emma stood at the stove, stirring a pot with focused attention. She'd pulled her hair back with a simple elastic band, not the diamond clip, and wore one of his old flannel shirts over her t-shirt as a makeshift apron. Something smells amazing, Jack said, setting down his toolbox. Emma turned a satisfied smile on her face. Beef bourguignon, or my attempt at it, anyway. The grocery store didn't have all the traditional ingredients. Beef what now? Bourguignon. French beef stew, essentially. Rich, hearty. She gestured to the open cookbook on the counter, another relic from Sarah's collection. I hope you don't mind that I use the cookbook. Not at all. Jack approached, looking over her shoulder at the simmering pot. Looks complicated. Not really, just time-consuming. Low and slow is the secret. Emma stirred the fragrant mixture. I had a job interview at the cafe near the library today. They seemed interested but wanted references. The shift in topic was abrupt but significant, her way of saying she hadn't spent the day just cooking an elaborate meal. She was still trying, still looking for her place. I could be a reference, Jack offered. Say you helped around the house, good with kids, responsible. Surprise flickered across her face. You do that? Why not? It's all true, he shrugged. Unless you're secretly terrible at making beds when I'm not looking. Emma laughed, the sound easier now than it had been a week ago. My bed making is impeccable, thank you very much. Then I'll vouch for you. Just tell them to call Jack Miller, landlord extraordinaire. Gratitude softened her features. Thank you, that would help a lot. Where's the wild child? Jack asked, noticing Ethan's absence. Finishing a school project in his room. It's due tomorrow. Emma lowered the heat under the pot. He's making a diorama of a dinosaur habitat. I helped him with the trees earlier, but he insisted on doing the dinosaurs himself. Jack nodded, appreciating her understanding of when to help and when to step back. It was a balance he struggled with himself, sometimes wanting to fix everything for Ethan, while knowing the boy needed to develop his own abilities. Later that night, Jack found himself channel surfing in the living room, mind too active for sleep. Emma appeared from her room with a mug of tea curling up at the opposite end of the couch. "Anything good on?" she asked, blowing gently on the steaming liquid. "Not really, just background noise." She nodded, understanding the desire for sound to fill empty spaces. They sat in companionable silence for a while, the TV murmuring local news updates neither was really watching. Then the segment changed, and a familiar name caught Jack's attention. He turned up the volume slightly as the news anchor reported, "Spencer Development announced plans today for their newest luxury project, Spencer Heights. The high-end residential and commercial complex will be built on the site of the current Oakwood Community Center and surrounding properties in the city's west side. The development has faced criticism from community activists who say it will displace low-income residents and eliminate vital services provided by the center." The screen showed footage of a distinguished-looking man in his 50s, silver-haired and impeccably dressed, speaking at a press conference. The caption identified him as Richard Spencer, CEO of Spencer Development. "Change is always difficult," Spencer was saying, his voice smooth and authoritative, "but progress requires vision. Spencer Heights will bring jobs, economic growth, and a revitalized neighborhood that benefits everyone." Jack glanced at Emma, who had gone completely still, her tea forgotten in her hands. Her eyes were fixed on the screen, her face drained of color. When the camera panned to show a woman standing slightly behind Richard Spencer, elegant blonde with features that echoed Emma's in a more mature form, she flinched visibly. The reporter continued, "The Oakwood Community Center has served the West Side neighborhood for over 30 years, providing after-school programs, literacy classes, and meeting spaces for local groups. Residents have organized protests against the development, but the City Council approved the rezoning request last month, clearing the way for construction to begin after the center is demolished next week." Jack hit mute as the segment ended, turning to Emma. "Spencer," he said quietly, "not just Emma after all." Emma set down her mug with shaking hands. "I should have told you." "Yes, you should have." Jack's voice remained level, but tension radiated from him. "Emma Spencer, daughter of Richard Spencer, whose company is demolishing a community center to build luxury condos." She met his gaze, chin lifting slightly. "Yes. And you ran away because I tried to stop it," she said, her voice stronger now. "From the inside through proper channels. Board meetings, environmental impact studies, community input. None of it worked. My father has the city council in his pocket, the zoning board, everyone." Jack studied her, seeing the pieces fall into place. "So you left, just walked away from everything." "I did more than walk away," Emma admitted. "I took documents, proof of the bribes, the falsified environmental reports the shell companies used to buy up properties at deflated values." Jack sat up straighter. "You stole company documents, Jesus, Emma. That's why you're hiding corporate espionage." "It's not espionage when you're exposing corruption," she countered. "People's lives are being destroyed. Homes, community services, safe spaces for children, all bulldozed for luxury apartments no one in the neighborhood can afford." The passion in her voice was unmistakable. This wasn't an act or a phase. This was the core of why she'd abandoned her privileged life. "Where are these documents now?" Jack asked. "Safe. Encrypted." Emma hugged herself, suddenly looking very young. "I haven't decided what to do with them yet. Taking them was impulsive. I needed leverage protection." "Protection. Are you in danger?" Emma's laugh was brittle. "My father doesn't tolerate disloyalty, especially not from family. He can't have his own daughter undermining his business publicly. It would devastate investor confidence." Jack leaned forward, concern overriding his initial anger. "Has he threatened you?" "Not directly, but I know how he operates." Emma's voice dropped. "The night I left, he told me if I wasn't with the family, I was against it. And Spencer Development destroys its opponents." The gravity of her situation hit Jack fully. This wasn't just a rich girl's rebellion. It was a principled stand against corruption that had potentially dangerous consequences. Does the Oakwood Community Center matter to you personally, he asked. Or is it just a symbol? Emma's expression softened. My mother used to volunteer there years ago, before she became what she is now. She taught literacy classes to adults working toward their GEDs. It's where she met my father, actually. He was developing properties nearby and would see her there. So it has family history. Yes, but it's more than that. Emma leaned forward earnestly. That center is the heart of the neighborhood. It's where kids go after school when parents are working, where community groups meet, where people without internet access can use computers to apply for jobs. It matters. Jack thought of Sarah, who had volunteered at similar centers. She would have understood Emma's passion immediately, would have probably joined her cause without hesitation. Why come here? He asked finally. To this neighborhood, this house. Emma looked down at her hands. I needed somewhere my father wouldn't think to look. Somewhere normal. When I saw your sign, it seemed perfect. A single father, a regular job. No connections to my world. And Ethan, was he part of your cover story too? Emma's head snapped up, hurt flashing in her eyes. No, never. My friendship with Ethan is real. I would never use a child that way. Jack held her gaze, searching for deception and finding none. After a moment, he nodded, accepting her sincerity. So what now? He asked. How long do you plan to hide here? What's your end game? Emma sighed, exhaustion evident in the slump of her shoulders. I don't know. I hoped I could find a way to stop the demolition. Use the documents somehow without exposing myself. But the timeline's accelerated. Next week it will be too late. Jack ran a hand through his hair, weighing his options. Part of him wanted to tell Emma this wasn't his fight, that she needed to find another place to stay. His priority had to be Ethan's safety and stability. But another part, the part that had loved Sarah's passionate commitment to community, the part that believed in standing up for what was right, understood exactly why Emma couldn't walk away from this fight. Tell me everything, he said finally. All of it. No more secrets. Then we'll figure out what to do. Relief washed over Emma's face, followed by cautious hope. Really, really. But Emma, his voice hardened slightly. If this puts Ethan at risk in any way, you are gone. That's non-negotiable. Emma nodded solemnly. I understand. And I would never want him hurt because of me. Never. Jack believed her. Despite all the half-truths and omissions, he believed that her care for Ethan was genuine, her principles real, her courage legitimate. Start from the beginning, he said, settling back to listen, and don't leave anything out this time. Emma took a deep breath and began to speak, finally sharing the all story of Emma Spencer, the privileged daughter who discovered her father's corruption and chose conscience over comfort, principle over family, truth over wealth. As she spoke, Jack realized that the mystery tenant, who had appeared on his doorstep in the rain, wasn't running from responsibility, but toward it in her own complicated, imperfect way. And despite his better judgment, he found himself admiring her for it. Morning light filtered through the kitchen window as Emma pored over a stack of newspapers, her coffee growing cold beside her. A week had passed since she'd revealed her true identity to Jack, and now the race against time had become urgent. The Oakwood Community Center's demolition date loomed just 5 days away. The city council won't budge. Emma circled another article with a red pen. The final appeal was denied yesterday. Jack leaned against the counter, the weight of sleepless nights evident in the shadows beneath his eyes. You sure these documents you have are enough to stop this? They prove my father bribed 3 council members and falsified environmental impact studies. Emma's voice hardened with determination. The problem is getting them to the right people before the bulldozers arrive. Jack's phone buzzed with a text from his sister Caroline. You okay? Mike from the garage called, said some men in suits were asking about you. The message confirmed Jack's growing unease. Richard Spencer's reach extended further than they'd anticipated. I've been in contact with Jennifer Wu, Emma said, noting his expression. She's an investigative reporter who's been covering urban development issues. If anyone can get this story out quickly enough to matter, it's her. Jack nodded, remembering the name from their late-night conversation. When do we meet her? Tonight, Emma replied. She's agreed to see us at a cafe downtown at 8. Before Jack could respond, the doorbell rang, an unusual occurrence on a weekday morning. He moved to the window, pulling back the curtain just enough to peer out. A sleek black sedan idled at the curb, a man in an expensive suit examining a tablet as he walked toward their front door. Emma, the urgency in Jack's tone brought her to his side. Is that one of your father's people? She paled, recognition flashing across her face. Marcus Daniels, my father's head of security and personal fixer. He handles problems. Jack let the curtain fall back into place. And right now, you're the problem. I never thought they'd look here. Emma's hands trembled slightly. I was careful. Used cash, no credit cards, no phone calls. The doorbell rang again, followed by a firm knock. Jack motioned Emma toward the kitchen. Stay out of sight. When Jack opened the door, he found himself facing a well-groomed man in his 40s with the confident bearing of someone accustomed to getting what he wanted. The smile he offered didn't reach his cold, assessing eyes. Mr. Miller. The man extended a business card. Marcus Daniels, head of security for Spencer Development. I apologize for the early visit, but I'm trying to locate Emma Spencer. Her family is quite concerned about her welfare. Jack examined the card, buying time. Spencer Development, don't think I know anyone by that name. Marcus's smile tightened. We have reason to believe Miss Spencer has been staying in this area, perhaps with someone matching your description. He produced a photograph of Emma professionally taken, showing her in elegant evening wear at what appeared to be a charity event. She's the daughter of our CEO. She left home rather suddenly after a family disagreement. Sorry, I can't help, Jack handed the photo back. But if I see her, who should I call? You can reach me directly. Marcus's gaze shifted past Jack, scanning what he could see of the interior. Her father is offering a substantial reward for information leading to her safe return. How substantial? Jack asked, playing along. Marcus named a figure that made Jack's eyebrows rise. That's a lot of concern. Family matters are important to Mr. Spencer. Marcus handed Jack another business card. If you do happen to see her, please call immediately. Day or night. Will do, Jack said, pocketing the card. Hope you find her. After closing the door, Jack watched through the peephole as Marcus returned to his sedan, speaking into his phone. The car remained parked for several minutes before finally pulling away. Emma emerged from the kitchen, visibly shaken. They know I'm in the area. Which means they'll be watching, Jack said. We need to move you somewhere safer. What about Ethan? Emma's concern focused immediately on the boy. If they were watching the house, Ethan first, Jack agreed, already dialing his phone. Then we figure out our next move. Caroline answered on the second ring. Jack, what's wrong? Need a favor, Caro. Can Ethan stay with you for a few days? Tell him it's a surprise fishing trip. His sister's response was immediate. Of course, Brian's taking time off this week anyway. But Jack, what's going on? I'll explain later, Jack promised. Can you pick him up from school today? I'll pack his stuff and drop it at your place in an hour. You're scaring me a little, Jack. It's complicated, but not dangerous, he assured her, though the lie tasted bitter. Just need to handle something, and Ethan's better off having fun at the lake. After ending the call, Jack turned to Emma. He'll be safe with Caroline. Her place is about 2 hours north on Lake Michigan. Spencer's people won't connect them to you. I should leave, Emma said quietly. This is your home, your life. I've already disrupted everything. Jack shook his head. Running again isn't the answer. It just postpones the inevitable. What choice do I have? My father will destroy anyone who helps me. Fear crept into her voice. He won't stop until he gets those documents back. Jack considered their options, mechanic's mind breaking down the problem into manageable parts. First, we get Ethan somewhere safe. Then we meet with Jennifer Wu tonight, give her the documents. After that, he shrugged, we figure it out as we go. Emma nodded, her expression a mixture of gratitude and lingering doubt. Thank you for not throwing me out. Don't thank me yet, Jack warned. This could still blow up in our faces. Later that afternoon, Jack watched Ethan pack his dinosaur pajamas and favorite books for what they'd told him was a surprise mini vacation with Aunt Carolyn. The boy's excitement was palpable, unaware of the true reason for the hasty trip. Will you and Emma come to the lake too? Ethan folded a t-shirt with clumsy determination. Jack ruffled his son's hair, heart aching at the innocent question. Not this time, buddy. Emma and I have some grown-up stuff to take care of here. Is it because of the man in the black car? Ethan's perceptiveness caught Jack off guard. I saw him from my window. He looked angry. Children noticed everything, their radar for tension and change, impossibly sensitive. Jack crouched to Ethan's level, debating how much to explain. That man works for Emma's dad. They had a disagreement about something important. Ethan considered this with solemn concentration. Is her dad the bad guy? Like in the movies? The question hung in the air, deceptively simple yet loaded with moral complexity Jack himself was still grappling with. How to explain corporate corruption and family betrayal to a 6-year-old? Not exactly buddy. Sometimes grown-ups can do wrong things even if they're not bad people. Emma's trying to help her dad understand that what he's doing is hurting people. Ethan nodded, accepting this explanation with the adaptability of childhood. Like when Tommy pushed Alex at recess and Mrs. Peterson made him understand it hurt Alex's feelings. Something like that? Jack smiled despite himself. Just a lot more complicated. After dropping off Ethan's bag at Carolyn's house and enduring his sister's worried questions with vague reassurances, Jack returned home to find Emma at the kitchen table, laptop open, her face bathed in blue light. The documents that had cost her everything were spread before her: property assessments with falsified values, environmental reports with altered data, emails detailing payments to city officials. Jennifer confirmed for tonight. Emma looked up as Jack entered. 8 o'clock at the Lakefront Cafe. Jack poured himself a cup of coffee, buying time to consider their next move. The garage had called earlier, his boss apologetically explaining that he needed to take some time off after a visit from men in suits asking questions about Jack's personal life. The pressure was mounting from all sides. What's the plan once we hand these over? We can't just release them and hope for the best. Emma closed her laptop, exhaustion etched in the lines around her eyes. Jennifer has contacts at the state attorney general's office. If they move quickly enough, they can get an injunction to stop the demolition while they investigate. And if they don't move quickly enough, then at least the truth comes out, even if it's too late for Oakwood. Determination hardened her voice. My father needs to face consequences, regardless. Jack studied her, this young woman who'd given up wealth, family, and safety for a principal, who was now risking even the modest security she'd found with them to fight a battle most would consider unwinnable. Your father's not going to take this lying down, he cautioned. Men like that don't just surrender when exposed. I know my father. Emma's gaze was unflinching. He'll sacrifice anything to protect the Spencer name and legacy. That's his weakness. He cares more about appearances than reality. As evening approached, they prepared to leave for the meeting with Jennifer Wu. Emma changed into dark jeans and a plain hoodie, as anonymous as possible. Jack tucked the flash drive containing the encrypted documents into his pocket, then checked the windows and doors one final time. They were about to leave when headlights swept across the living room curtains. A car engine idled outside, then cut off. Jack peered through the blinds, tension coiling in his muscles. It's Marcus, he whispered, and he's not alone. Emma froze, fear briefly overtaking her composure. How did they find us so quickly? Jack's mind raced through possibilities. Maybe they've been watching longer than we realized. Or someone talked. A sharp knock rattled the front door. Mr. Miller, Marcus Daniels' voice carried easily through the wood. I believe you have something that belongs to Spencer Development. I'm here to retrieve it. Jack and Emma exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them. They had anticipated this confrontation, but not so soon. Not before they could get the documents to Jennifer. Go out the back, Jack whispered. Take my truck. The keys are on the hook. I'll stall them. Emma grabbed his arm, conflict evident in her expression. I'm not leaving you to face them alone. This isn't up for debate. Jack pressed the flash drive into her palm, closing her fingers around it. Get this to Jennifer. That's what matters. Another knock, harder this time. Mr. Miller, I know Miss Spencer is in there. This doesn't have to be difficult. Jack straightened his shoulders, years of protecting what was his son, his home, his principles, hardening into resolve. Go, now. Emma hesitated only a moment longer before slipping toward the kitchen and the back door. Jack waited until he heard the soft click of the door closing before approaching the front entrance, composing his features into neutral curiosity. When he opened the door, Marcus Daniels stood on the porch, flanked by 2 larger men with the unmistakable build of private security. Behind them, the black sedan gleamed beneath the streetlight like a predator waiting to strike. Mr. Miller, Marcus offered a smile that never reached his eyes. Apologize for the late visit. I'm here representing Richard Spencer regarding a family matter. Jack leaned against the doorframe, deliberately casual. Don't know any Spencers. Think you've got the wrong house. Marcus' expression didn't change, but something cold flickered in his gaze. Let's not waste each other's time. We know Emma Spencer has been staying here. We know she took confidential company property when she left. Like I said, wrong house. Jack made no move to step aside. Got any identification? Seems odd strangers showing up asking about young women. One of the security men shifted his weight, hand moving subtly toward his jacket. Marcus noticed and gave an almost imperceptible shake of his head. Mr. Miller, you seem like a practical man. A mechanic, single father, getting by paycheck to paycheck. The words slid out smooth as oil. Miss Spencer is involved in matters beyond her understanding. Corporate politics that have nothing to do with you or your son. The mention of Ethan sent a chill through Jack's blood, but he kept his expression neutral. Still don't know what you're talking about. Marcus sighed as if disappointed by Jack's stubbornness. Let me be clear then. Mr. Spencer is prepared to be generous, very generous, to facilitate his daughter's return and the recovery of company property. He reached into his jacket, producing an envelope thick with what could only be cash. $20,000. Consider it compensation for your trouble. All we need is the flash drive Emma took and information on where she's gone. Jack eyed the envelope without reaching for it. $20,000 would cover Ethan's college fund, fix the roof, replace his dying truck. A year ago, it would have seemed like salvation. That's quite an offer for someone who isn't here. Jack's voice remained steady. But even if she was, I'm not in the habit of selling out people who trust me. The temperature of Marcus's demeanor dropped several degrees. Mr. Miller, there are two ways this can go. The easy way, he tapped the envelope, or a way that becomes increasingly uncomfortable for everyone involved. Jack straightened to his full height, no longer leaning casually. I fix cars for a living, Mr. Daniels. I know when someone's trying to sell me parts I don't need, not interested. A muscle twitched in Marcus' jaw. You should think about your son, Mr. Miller, about his future, about how difficult life can become when you make powerful enemies. The threat, thinly veiled but unmistakable, ignited something primal in Jack's chest. His voice dropped to a dangerous quiet. Let me be crystal clear. You come to my home, try to buy me off, and then threaten my child. You're lucky I'm still talking instead of calling the police. The police, Marcus laughed softly. By all means, I'm sure they'd be interested in the stolen corporate documents, or perhaps in how your employment status seems to have changed today. Unfortunate timing. Jack's hands curled into fists at his sides, the urge to physically remove this man from his property nearly overwhelming. But that wouldn't help Emma, wouldn't help the people of Oakwood, wouldn't set the example he wanted for Ethan. We're done here, Jack began, closing the door. Don't come back without a warrant. Marcus placed his foot in the doorway, preventing its closure. This isn't over, Mr. Miller. When you see Emma, tell her that her father is losing patience. Family loyalty only extends so far. Jack stared him down, unflinching. Get your foot out of my door before you lose it. Something in Jack's tone must have registered as deadly serious, because Marcus withdrew his foot, tucking the envelope back into his jacket. We'll be in touch. Jack closed and locked the door, watching through the peephole as the three men returned to their vehicle. Only when the sedan pulled away did he release the breath he'd been holding, adrenaline coursing through his system. He moved quickly to the kitchen, grabbing his phone to call Emma. No answer. He tried again with the same result, worry crystallizing in his gut. The back door stood slightly ajar. Had she left it that way in her hurry? Outside, Jack found his truck still parked where it always was. The keys hung on their hook by the door. Emma hadn't taken his vehicle after all. But where had she gone and how? A text message notification buzzed on his phone. Change plans, taking bus. Don't worry. We'll contact when safe. Jack stared at the message from the unknown number, relief mingling with fresh concern. The bus would be safer than his easily identifiable truck, but it also meant Emma was out there alone, potentially being hunted by her father's men. Back inside, Jack paced the kitchen, weighing options. Marcus Daniels would certainly return, possibly with reinforcements or legal pressure. The confrontation had only bought them time, not resolution. His phone rang Caroline, calling to let him know they'd arrived safely at the lake house. Ethan was already exploring the dock with his cousins, excited about fishing in the morning. At least his son was safe away from whatever was about to unfold. After hanging up, Jack noticed a folded piece of paper on the counter that hadn't been there before. Emma's handwriting flowed across the page in elegant cursive. Jack, if you're reading this, I've left alone. I couldn't risk them following your truck. Jennifer will meet me at the cafe on 5th Street at 900. Don't come, they'll be watching you now. I'm sorry for bringing this to your door. You and Ethan deserve better than to be caught in my family's war. Thank you for showing me what a real home feels like. Emma, Jack checked his watch, 8:42. The cafe was 15 minutes away by car. Emma would be heading into a meeting that could change everything while Richard Spencer's men were closing in. Despite her warning, there was no scenario where Jack stayed home while she faced this alone. He grabbed his jacket and keys, mind already plotting the quickest route that would avoid main streets, where the black sedan might be watching. As he headed for the door, his phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number. They know about the meeting. Jennifer says it's a trap. Don't come to cafe. Jack's stomach dropped. If Spencer's people knew about Jennifer Wu, they'd been monitoring more than they realized. The trap wasn't just for Emma, it was for the evidence, the reporter, anyone who threatened to expose the truth. He dialed the unknown number, praying Emma would answer. When the call connected, her voice came through, breathless and hushed. Jack, I can't talk long. They're everywhere. Where are you? Jack was already in his truck, engine running. Bus station bathroom. I saw Marcus's men at the cafe across the street. They're waiting for me. Jack's mind raced through alternatives. Stay put, I'm coming to get you. No, fear sharpened her voice. They'll be watching your truck. You can't come here. Then where? We need to get those documents somewhere safe before they find you. The line went quiet for a moment, just Emma's rapid breathing audible. I have an idea, but it's risky. My mother's charity foundation is hosting an event tonight at the Grand Hotel downtown. Security will be tight, but my father's men won't expect me there. Your mother, the same mother who stood by while your father built his empire. She's not as complicit as I thought. Emma's voice lowered further. She's been sending me messages through Mrs. Abernathy, cryptic notes with my birthday cards. I think she wants to help, but doesn't know how. Jack weighed the dangers against their dwindling options. Even if you're right, how do you get in? Won't they be watching for you? The service entrance. Mrs. Abernathy still runs the household staff. She'll help us. Us, Jack caught the pronoun immediately. I can't do this alone, Jack. Vulnerability cracked through her composed facade. I thought I could, but I was wrong. The admission cost her pride, but revealed something stronger beneath wisdom to recognize when independence became isolation. Jack had learned that lesson himself after Sarah's death, when accepting help felt like failure until he realized it was the only way to survive. Text me the address for the service entrance. I'll park a few blocks away and meet you there at 9:30. Thank you. Relief softened her voice. Be careful, these people, they don't play by normal rules. Neither did he when it came to protecting what mattered. The Grand Hotel rose like a gilded monument to old Chicago money, its limestone facade illuminated by strategic lighting that emphasized its historical grandeur. Jack approached from the shadow side street where deliveries and staff entered, his work jacket and jeans, helping him blend with the service workers coming and going. Emma waited in the recessed doorway of a closed alteration shop, hood pulled over her blonde hair, shoulders hunched to disguise her height and bearing. When she spotted Jack, her posture straightened instinctively before she caught herself returning to the slouch of someone unremarkable. Any trouble? Jack asked as he reached her side. I think I lost them at the bus terminal. Emma glanced nervously toward the hotel. But we should hurry. Mrs. Abernathy can only hold the door for a few minutes between shift changes. They crossed the street together, Emma leading them to a nondescript service entrance, partially hidden by hedges. As promised, an elderly woman with iron gray hair and the ramrod posture of long service stood just inside, holding the door open a cautious few inches. Miss Emma, the whispered greeting carried decades of affection compressed into 2 words. Quickly now. Inside the service corridor presented a stark contrast to the hotel's public opulence. Utilitarian white walls, scuffed floor tiles, exposed pipes overhead. Mrs. Abernathy guided them through a maze of back hallways past industrial kitchens where staff prepared hors d'oeuvres for the charity event. Your mother is in the Goldstein room overseeing final arrangements, Mrs. Abernathy explained in hushed tones. I've told her you might come. She's alone now, but not for long. Emma's hand found Jack's arm, fingers tightening in a silent request for reassurance. He covered her hand with his own, a gesture that had become familiar in their weeks together, support without words, strength shared rather than demonstrated. Is this safe? Jack scanned the corridor for security cameras or suspicious staff. Safer than anywhere else tonight. Mrs. Abernathy's efficiency reminded Jack of Emma's, the same precision, the same economy of movement. Mr. Spencer never attends these foundation events. Says they're a waste of time. They reached a service door marked Goldstein Room, staff only. Abernathy knocked 3 times, paused. Then twice more clearly, a signal. The door opened immediately. Elizabeth Spencer was a vision in midnight blue diamonds at her throat, catching light like captured stars. Her blonde hair, the same shade as Emma's, was swept into an elegant chignon that emphasized her aristocratic features. For a moment, mother and daughter stared at each other across what seemed an unbridgeable divide of time and choice. Then Elizabeth stepped forward, arms opening. Emma. The embrace was tentative at first, as if both women had forgotten the mechanics of such simple affection. But something gave way, perhaps years of formality, perhaps mutual fear, and they clung to each other with surprising desperation. Jack hung back, feeling the intrusion of his presence in this private moment. Mrs. Abernathy touched his arm, nodding toward the hallway. We'll keep watch. 5 minutes is all we can risk. When the door closed, Elizabeth pulled back to examine her daughter's face. You look tired, darling. But well. I am well. Emma's voice carried a certainty that hadn't been there months ago. Better than I was in that house. Elizabeth's gaze shifted to Jack's assessment in her blue eyes. And you must be the mechanic who's been sheltering my daughter. Jack Miller, ma'am. He kept his tone respectful, but not deferential. My mother knows why we're here, Emma explained, about the documents about Oakwood. Elizabeth moved to a small writing desk, extracting a key from her evening purse. Your father knows you have evidence, Emma. He's been watching Jennifer Wu for weeks. Any attempt to give her those documents will fail. Then who? Frustration edged Emma's voice. The demolition starts in 5 days. Give them to me. Elizabeth unlocked the desk drawer, removing a slim folder. I've been gathering my own evidence. Bank transfers, recordings of board meetings, correspondence with city officials. Emma stared at her mother in disbelief. You've been investigating him, your own husband. For nearly a year. Elizabeth's perfectly composed features revealed nothing but her eyes held a storm. Richard changed after your grandfather died. The company became everything. Ethics, community, even families, all secondary to expansion and profit. She handed the folder to Emma. I've been documenting the worst of it. The Oakwood development is just one project among many with similar irregularities. Jack watched the revelation transform Emma's understanding of her mother. Not the passive society wife she'd believed, but a woman playing a long, careful game of her own. Why didn't you tell me? Hurt threaded through Emma's question. All those years I thought you approved that you chose his side. Because you needed to make your own choice, Emma. Elizabeth straightened a diamond bracelet with practiced fingers. If I'd shown you this, you would have stayed to help me fight from within. You needed to leave to find your own strength away from his influence. Jack recognized the calculation in Elizabeth's explanation, the love beneath it, but also the strategic thinking that had protected her evidence-gathering operation. She had sacrificed her relationship with her daughter to maintain her cover and continue collecting proof of her husband's corruption. We still need someone to take this public, Emma insisted. Jennifer was our best chance. I have a better option. Elizabeth's voice lowered. Judge Michael Harrington. He sits on the federal bench, specializes in corporate fraud cases. He's attending tonight's event, and he owes me a favor. A federal judge, hope flickered across Emma's face. That could work. He could issue an immediate injunction. Exactly. But we must be careful. Elizabeth checked her diamond watch. Richard's head of security, Marcus. We've met, Jack interjected grimly. Has men watching the main entrance. They don't expect you here, but we can't risk a public confrontation. A soft knock at the door signaled Mrs. Abernathy's return. Mrs. Spencer, the first guests are arriving. You're expected in the foyer for greetings. Elizabeth nodded, composure never faltering. I'll arrange a private meeting with Judge Harrington in my foundation office upstairs. Room 512. Mrs. Abernathy will bring you there through the service elevator. She turned to Emma, cupping her daughter's face with manicured hands. You were right to leave to stand up for what's right. I'm proud of you, Emma. I should have told you that long ago. Emma blinked rapidly, fighting unexpected tears. I thought you hated me for betraying the family. Oh, my darling. Elizabeth's perfect facade cracked just slightly. You're the only one who remembered what our family was supposed to stand for. The moment stretched between them, years of misunderstanding, giving way to recognition. Then Elizabeth was all business again, arranging the meeting that might save Oakwood and expose Richard Spencer's corruption. As Mrs. Abernathy led them through back corridors toward the service elevator, Jack watched Emma process her mother's revelations. The weight of being the lone crusader had lifted from her shoulders, replaced by something more complex, the responsibility of being part of a larger mission. You okay? He asked quietly as they waited for the elevator. Emma nodded, a new resolve in her eyes. For the first time in months, I think we might actually win. The elevator doors opened, revealing the last person they expected to see, Marcus Daniels' hand moving immediately toward his jacket. Miss Spencer? His smile was cold triumph. Your father will be relieved to know you're safe. Behind them, the corridor stretched empty in both directions. Mrs. Abernathy had gone ahead to ensure the path was clear, leaving them without allies or escape routes. Jack stepped slightly in front of Emma, calculating odds and angles with mechanical precision. My father doesn't care about my safety. Emma's voice remained steady despite the fear Jack could feel radiating from her. He only cares about protecting himself. Nevertheless, he sent me to bring you home. Marcus' gaze shifted to Jack. Step aside, Mr. Miller. This is a family matter. Emma is under my protection. Jack's stance widened imperceptibly, center of gravity lowering in preparation for whatever came next. We both know your boss doesn't want a family reunion. He wants those documents destroyed and his daughter silenced. Marcus' expression hardened. You're interfering in matters you don't understand. Spencer Development has ways of dealing with problems that go beyond what you can imagine. Is that why you're following my son's aunt to Michigan? The question was a calculated risk thrown out to gauge reaction. Did Richard Spencer authorize surveillance on a 6-year-old boy? The flicker of surprise in Marcus' eyes confirmed Jack's suspicion they'd been monitoring his calls, tracking Caroline's movements. His hands curled into fists at his sides, rage building in his chest like combustion in an engine. You stay away from my son. Each word emerged with deadly precision. Or what happens next won't involve lawyers or courts. Marcus's hand emerged from his jacket, not with a weapon, but with a phone. You're in no position to make threats, Mr. Miller. One call and security removes you from this building. Another and your garage receives evidence of theft. A third and Child Protective Services gets an anonymous tip about an unsafe home environment. The systematic dismantling of Jack's life, laid out so casually, sent ice through his veins. This was how men like Richard Spencer operated, not with direct violence, but with the machinery of systems they controlled, crushing opposition through 1,000 small destructions. Emma stepped forward, no longer behind Jack's protective stance. Call security, Marcus. Please do. Explain to them why Richard Spencer's head of security is threatening a federal judge's key witness. Marcus's confidence faltered. What judge? Judge Michael Harrington will be reviewing our evidence upstairs in 10 minutes. Emma's bluff carried the absolute certainty of truth. Federal jurisdiction supersedes any local influence my father might have. But please make your calls. Add witness intimidation to the growing list of charges. Jack watched the calculation play across Marcus' face, weighing risks, assessing veracity, measuring consequences. Emma had learned well from her father's world, using the threat of power against itself. The elevator doors began to close. Marcus thrust his hand out to stop them, decision apparently made, but Jack was faster, driving his shoulder into the smaller man's chest, forcing him back into the corridor. The doors closed between them, and the elevator began its ascent. Emma sagged against the wall, adrenaline clearly draining her composure. That won't hold him long. He'll take the stairs, call for backup. Then we need to move quickly. Jack hit the button for the 5th floor. Was that true about Judge Harrington? Mother mentioned him, but we haven't arranged anything yet. Emma straightened, gathering herself. It was the only counter I could think of. Jack nodded, admiration mixing with concern. Quick thinking, but now we need to actually find this judge before Marcus finds us. The elevator opened onto a plush corridor lined with numbered doors, the hotel's executive offices and meeting rooms. Room 512 stood at the far end, its door slightly ajar. Jack approached cautiously, instincts warning him something wasn't right. Inside, Elizabeth Spencer stood with her back to them, speaking in low tones as someone just out of view. At their entrance, she turned surprise and then alarm crossing her face. Emma, you're supposed to be with Mrs. Abernathy. We ran into Marcus in the elevator. Emma stepped forward, then froze as the room's other occupant came into view. Richard Spencer rose from behind the desk, tall and imposing in his custom suit, silver hair perfectly coiffed. His handsome features, so like Emma's in structure, if not in warmth, registered no surprise at his daughter's appearance. Hello, Emma. His voice carried the practiced cadence of boardroom authority. It's time to come home now. Elizabeth moved quickly to Emma's side, genuine fear breaking through her socialite's composure. Richard, what are you doing here? You never attend Foundation events. Evidently with good reason. His gaze traveled from his wife to his daughter, to Jack, whom he dismissed with barely a glance. Family conspiracies forming in my absence. Emma's hand found the flash drive in her pocket, gripping it like a talisman. This isn't about family, father. It's about right and wrong. Right and wrong. Richard's laugh held no humor. Such simplistic concepts for a complex world. The development you're so desperate to stop will create hundreds of jobs, millions in tax revenue, while destroying a community center that serves thousands of vulnerable people. Emma's voice strengthened with each word. That employs dozens of social workers and educators. That provides the only safe space many children have. Richard waved a dismissive hand. Sentimentality. The center is outdated, inefficient. We'll build a new one elsewhere better equipped, where these families can't access it. Emma took another step forward. In a neighborhood they can't afford once you've driven up property values and forced them out. Jack watched the confrontation unfold, seeing the fundamental disconnect between father and daughter. To Richard, people were abstractions, data points, and a growth strategy. To Emma, they were individuals with lives and needs that spreadsheets couldn't capture. A commotion in the hallway signaled Marcus' arrival with reinforcements. Richard's smile was cold victory. It appears our time for discussion has ended. Marcus will escort you to the car, Emma. We'll continue this conversation at home. Elizabeth stepped between her husband and daughter. She's not going anywhere with Marcus. Elizabeth, warning edged Richard's tone. Don't interfere in matters you don't understand. I understand perfectly. Elizabeth's aristocratic features hardened into something formidable. I've understood for years while I gathered evidence of every illegal transaction, every bribe, every falsified report. Richard's confidence faltered for the first time. What are you talking about? The Spencer Foundation's financial records. Elizabeth's smile was razor sharp. So convenient for documenting suspicious transfers. The Foundation board will be quite interested in tonight's presentation. The door burst open as Marcus entered, with two security guards momentarily distracting everyone. In that crucial second, Jack made his move, stepping forward to place himself beside Emma. Mr. Spencer, his voice carried the calm certainty of a man who knew engines, who understood that even the most powerful machines had vulnerable points. You have a choice right now. You can continue down this path, destroying lives for profit, risking your reputation and freedom. Or you can step back, reassess, and find a better way forward. Richard's dismissive glance returned, more pointed now. And who exactly are you to offer me business advice? A mechanic. A temporary distraction in my daughter's rebellion. The condescension might once have cut deep, but Jack had long ago learned his worth wasn't measured by men in expensive suits. I'm someone who fixes things that are broken. Right now, your family, your legacy, and your moral compass all qualify. Emma's hands slipped into Jack's fingers, intertwining in a gesture that communicated more than words. Together they faced Richard Spencer, wealth and power personified, with nothing but truth and determination as their weapons. The tension in the room crystallized into a moment of decision. Whatever happened next would determine not just the fate of Oakwood Community Center, but the course of all their lives. Richard Spencer stood immobile, a statue of privilege, suddenly confronted with its own fragility. The room held its breath, Elizabeth poised with quiet determination. Emma clutching the flash drive, Jack steady beside her, and Marcus waiting at the threshold for commands that didn't come. "You're bluffing." Richard's confidence wavered beneath the surface. "You wouldn't risk everything we've built." Elizabeth stepped closer, decades of practiced deference falling away. "No, Richard, you risked everything when you chose profit over principle, when you decided bribes and falsified reports were acceptable business practices. All business involves compromise." Richard straightened his already impeccable tie. "The board understands this. They won't sacrifice growth over some sentimental attachment to an outdated community center." "Perhaps not." Elizabeth extracted a slim phone from her evening purse. "But I suspect the federal investigators might take a different view. Judge Harrington was quite interested when I mentioned the pattern of zoning irregularities." Richard's composure cracked further, eyes darting to Marcus, as if seeking rescue from this unexpected rebellion. "You contacted a federal judge behind my back." "Not yet." Elizabeth's finger hovered over the phone screen. "But one call changes everything. Michael is downstairs right now wondering why I'm late for our meeting." The standoff crystallized into something beyond a family dispute, a fundamental collision of values of visions for what success truly meant. Jack watched Richard calculate his options, the practiced assessment of a man accustomed to controlling every variable. "You're making a mistake." Richard's voice hardened. "Both of you. This crusade will accomplish nothing except destroying the Spencer name." Emma stepped forward, her posture echoing her mother's newfound strength. "The Spencer name was meant to stand for something better. Grandfather built affordable housing after the war. He created jobs, supported communities. My father was a romantic idealist who left millions on the table." Richard's dismissal cut through the air. "I transformed his quaint real estate company into a development empire." "At what cost?" Emma held up the flash drive. "How many families displaced? How many communities destroyed? How many officials bribed?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably at the door, clearly uncertain whether to intervene. Jack remained vigilant, watching for any move against Emma, while measuring distances to exits, calculating angles of protection. "You've known about all this." Richard turned to Elizabeth, betrayal flickering across his features. "For how long?" "Long enough." Elizabeth's aristocratic mask remained firmly in place. "I watched you change, Richard. Success became more important than substance. Winning meant more than what you were winning." The accusation struck deeper than expected. Richard's gaze drifted to the family photograph on Elizabeth's desk, a younger version of themselves with Emma as a teenager, all dressed in formal attire but smiling with genuine warmth. A family before ambition consumed everything else. "What do you want?" Richard's question carried the first hint of concession. Emma exchanged glances with her mother, then Jack. The moment of potential victory required careful navigation. "Stop the Oakwood demolition." Emma's voice was clear, unwavering. "Revise the development plan to preserve the community center and include affordable housing units." "Impossible. The permits are approved, contracts signed." Richard shook his head. "The financial implications alone are manageable," Elizabeth interjected smoothly. "I've already had our financial team model alternative approaches. The Spencer Foundation could partner with the development side, creating a mixed-use project that actually enhances shareholder value through community investment tax credits." Jack watched admiration flash across Emma's face. Her mother had prepared for this confrontation with meticulous attention to detail, speaking Richard's language of profit and loss, while redirecting toward more ethical outcomes. "And if I refuse?" Richard's question hung in the air. Elizabeth raised her phone again. "Then I make the call. Tonight, everything public, the bribes, the environmental report, falsification, the shell companies. Your choice, Richard." For the first time in his privileged life, Richard Spencer faced opposition he couldn't simply bulldoze. His wife and daughter stood united, armed with evidence and conviction, while the mechanic, a man he'd dismissed as irrelevant, provided the unwavering support that had once been his role. 1 week. Richard's concession came reluctantly. "I need 1 week to review alternatives and speak with the board. The demolition is scheduled in 5 days." Emma shook her head. "Not good enough." "I'll have Marcus issue a stop work order tomorrow morning." Richard glanced at his security chief, who nodded confirmation. Pending project review. Elizabeth's posture relaxed slightly, though her guard remained up. And the documents. What assurance do we have that you won't simply destroy the evidence once we leave? Keep them. The words clearly cost Richard his considerable pride. Consider them insurance for our agreement. Jack studied the older man's face mechanics instinct, searching for signs of deception, a loose connection, a faulty part ready to fail when pressure increased. What about your people watching Ethan? They need to back off, now. Richard's attention shifted fully to Jack for the first time, reassessing the man his daughter had allied herself with. You're concerned for your son. As a father, I understand that. Do you? Jack's question cut through pretense. Because from where I stand, you've spent more energy hunting your daughter than trying to understand why she left. The observation landed with unexpected impact. Richard's practiced corporate mask slipped, revealing something almost human beneath regret, perhaps, or at least recognition of a fundamental failure. Marcus, Richard turned to his security chief. Recall all surveillance immediately. The Miller family is to be left alone, regardless of the outcome here. Emma reached for Jack's hand, relief evident in the slight trembling of her fingers. This small victory, Ethan's safety secured, meant more than any corporate concession. I'll need your word, both of you, Richard continued, addressing his wife and daughter, that these documents remain private while we negotiate a new approach to Oakwood. Elizabeth and Emma exchanged glances, silently conferring. Emma nodded slightly. 1 week, Elizabeth confirmed, but we'll be watching every step of the process. Any sign of manipulation or delay, and everything goes public. Richard straightened his jacket, corporate armor sliding back into place. Then I believe we have an understanding. Marcus will drive me back to the office. We have considerable work to do if we're to revise the entire Oakwood project. As Richard moved toward the door, he paused beside Emma. For a moment, father and daughter regarded each other not as adversaries, but as two people connected by blood, yet separated by principle. You're more like your grandfather than I realized. The observation carried complex emotions. He never backed down when he believed he was right either. Emma's chin lifted slightly. I'll take that as a compliment. It was intended as one. Richard hesitated, then added, when this is resolved, perhaps we could talk. About your future, about your place in the company. My place isn't in the company, father. Emma's response was gentle but firm. Not as it exists today. Richard absorbed this, nodding once before continuing toward the door. Marcus followed, pausing only to give Jack a measuring look, part grudging respect, part lingering threat, before closing the door behind them. The room exhaled collectively. Elizabeth sank into her desk chair, composure finally wavering now that the confrontation had ended. Emma moved to her mother's side, the years of misunderstanding beginning to heal in this moment of shared victory. Jack stood apart, allowing them this reconnection while processing what had just occurred. They'd achieved more than he'd dared hope: Richard's concession, protection for Ethan, a chance to save Oakwood. Yet experience had taught him that powerful men rarely surrendered completely, even when cornered. Do you trust him? The question emerged from Jack's practical nature, his instinct to verify before considering any engine truly fixed. Elizabeth looked up, her expression knowing. Trust requires verification. We'll monitor every communication about Oakwood, every permit modification, every meeting with the city officials. And we still have the documents. Emma patted her pocket where the flash drive remained secure. Insurance, his father called it. Jack nodded, acknowledging their foresight while still harboring reservations. I should check on Ethan, make sure Richard's people actually backed off. Of course. Emma moved toward him, gratitude and something deeper shining in her eyes. I can never thank you enough for what you've done, Jack. For standing with me when anyone else would have walked away. Jack shook his head, uncomfortable with her acknowledgement of what had felt like the only possible choice. You did the hard part. Standing up to your father, risking everything for what's right, that took real courage. A trait she comes by honestly. Elizabeth rose, her aristocratic bearing returning as she gathered herself. The Spencer women apparently share a streak of rebellion when principles are at stake. The observation brought a smile to Emma's face, perhaps the first genuine connection with her mother in years. Jack watched them together, noting the similar bend of their shoulders, the matching determination in their eyes despite years moving in different orbits. I should get back to the event. Elizabeth checked her watch. People will be wondering where I've disappeared to. Emma, you and Jack should leave separately through the service entrance. Mrs. Abernathy will help ensure you're not seen. Emma embraced her mother once more, the gesture no longer awkward but natural necessary. We'll talk tomorrow about next steps. First thing, Elizabeth squeezed her daughter's hands. We have much to discuss, and not just about Oakwood. After Elizabeth departed to rejoin her charity event, Jack and Emma made their way back through the service corridors following Mrs. Abernathy's directions to avoid security cameras and potential witnesses. The night air felt different when they finally emerged onto the quiet side street, cleaner somehow, as if a storm had passed, leaving clarity in its wake. Morning arrived with sunlight streaming through kitchen windows and Jack's phone ringing insistently. Jennifer Wu, the investigative reporter they'd planned to meet before everything changed. I've been trying to reach Emma. Urgency threaded through Jennifer's voice. Something's happening at Oakwood. Construction crews arrived an hour ago. But they're not demolishing. They're unloading different equipment, setting up a community meeting tent. Jack exchanged glances with Emma, who had appeared in the kitchen doorway at the sound of his phone. Richard promised to stop the demolition, issue a project review. This looks like more than a review. Jennifer continued background noise, suggesting she was on scene. They've posted revised project notices, something called Oakwood Community Partnership. The Spencer Development logo is paired with the Spencer Foundation emblem. Emma's eyes widened in surprise. My mother works fast. After promising Jennifer they'd come to Oakwood immediately, Jack ended the call. Emma was already gathering her things, energy radiating from her previously exhausted frame. Do you think they're actually changing the project? Hope colored her voice. Or is this just for show? Jack considered Richard Spencer's character, the corporate calculation that defined his decisions. One way to find out. They arrived at Oakwood 30 minutes later to find the community center buzzing with activity. Construction crews were indeed present, but instead of demolition equipment, they unloaded materials for renovation. A large white tent stood on the center's lawn filled with display boards showing architectural renderings and site plans. Elizabeth Spencer directed operations from the center's entrance, clipboard in hand, no longer the society wife, but a woman in her element. She spotted Emma and Jack approaching and moved to meet them, satisfaction evident in her posture. You've been busy. Emma surveyed the transformation with cautious optimism. Father actually agreed to all this. Once I presented the tax advantages and positive publicity potential, he became quite amenable. Elizabeth's smile carried the satisfaction of victory hard won. The board was surprisingly supportive once they understood the foundation's involvement mitigates financial risk, while enhancing corporate social responsibility metrics. Jack studied the architectural renderings visible through the tent. Opening the community center preserved and expanded affordable housing units integrated with market-rate apartments. Green spaces connecting rather than dividing different income levels. He's actually doing it. Disbelief colored Emma's observation, changing the entire approach. Your father responds to pressure and incentives. Elizabeth led them toward the tent. I simply provided both in sufficient quantity. Inside, community members gathered around display boards, expressions ranging from suspicious to cautiously hopeful. Richard Spencer stood at the center, uncharacteristically subdued, as he explained elements of the revised plan to neighborhood representatives. He looked up as they entered, acknowledging their presence with a slight nod before returning to his presentation. The gesture contained neither warmth nor hostility, simply recognition of a new reality in which his daughter and wife had forced his hand toward a better outcome. Jennifer Wu intercepted them before they could approach Richard. Emma Spencer, I presume? The reporter's shrewd gaze assessed Emma quickly. Quite the dramatic family intervention. Emma tensed beside Jack, clearly uncertain how much the reporter had pieced together. I'm sorry about missing our meeting. Circumstances changed unexpectedly. So I gathered, Jennifer gestured toward Richard. Care to explain how Spencer Development's most controversial project transformed overnight into a community partnership, with you at the center of the transformation? Jack stepped closer to Emma, protective instinct rising. That's not the story here. The community center being saved, the affordable housing being preserved, that's what matters. Jennifer's attention shifted to Jack, reassessing his role in the unfolding drama. And you are a friend. Jack's simple answer encompassed the complex reality of his relationship with Emma Defender ally, potentially something more. A very effective friend, apparently. Jennifer's reporter's instinct clearly sensed the larger story beneath the surface. Look, I respect your privacy, but people deserve to know how this happened. Communities across the city are fighting similar battles against developers like Spencer. Your story could help them. Emma considered the request, weighing privacy against potential impact. What if I gave you something better: documentation of how development companies manipulate zoning laws, bribe officials, and displace communities, with Oakwood as a case study in how to fight back successfully? Jennifer's eyes widened at the offer. You have documentation, verifiable evidence? Enough to make a difference. Emma glanced toward her father, determination replacing fear. Not to destroy Spencer development, but to change how it operates and how others operate too. The negotiation continued, Emma, establishing boundaries around what could be published while ensuring the core evidence reached those who could use it effectively. Jack watched her navigate this complex territory with growing admiration, no longer the frightened young woman who had appeared on his porch, but a strategic force for change working within systems she understood intimately. Across the tent, Richard observed their conversation, undoubtedly recognizing the reporter and calculating potential damage to his corporate interests. Elizabeth joined him, saying something that caused his attention to shift back to the community representatives surrounding him. Your parents make quite the team when properly aligned in. Jack's observation drew Emma's gaze toward the couple. I never saw them work together like this. Wonder tinged her voice. Growing up, they operated in separate spheres, father in business, mother in philanthropy, never intersecting. Maybe they needed something worth fighting for together. Jack watched Richard actually listening to a community elder describing the center's importance, Elizabeth subtly guiding the conversation toward constructive outcomes. Emma's hand found Jack's fingers intertwining naturally. Maybe we all did. After finalizing arrangements with Jennifer, they approached Richard and Elizabeth. The family reunion occurred beneath the curious gaze of community members and construction crews, 3 Spencers and a mechanic, an unlikely alliance that had changed Oakwood's future. The revised plans looked promising. Emma addressed her father directly, professional assessment, replacing personal grievance. The community seems cautiously optimistic. Richard nodded, corporate mask firmly in place, despite the unusual circumstances. The financial models Elizabeth presented proved surprisingly viable. The foundation's involvement creates tax advantages we hadn't fully explored. And the community input, Jack pressed, unwilling to let economic considerations overshadow human impact. Richard's gaze shifted to Jack, reassessment, evident in his expression. Provides valuable insights into neighborhood needs and preferences, improving overall project acceptance and reducing costly delays. The corporate language translated the human element into terms Richard understood: efficiency, acceptance, cost reduction. Not ideal perhaps, but a bridge between worldviews that had seemed irreconcilable days earlier. We've scheduled weekly community input sessions. Elizabeth moved the conversation forward. Emma, your experience with similar projects would be invaluable if you're willing to consult. The offer surprised Emma, creating an opportunity for involvement without requiring return to the corporate fold. I'd like that, as an independent advisor, not as a Spencer development employee. Richard frowned slightly at this condition but didn't object. Progress, however, incremental, remained progress. We should discuss compensation and parameters then. Later, Elizabeth placed a restraining hand on her husband's arm. Today is about establishing trust with the community, not negotiating contracts. The gentle correction drew a resigned nod from Richard, another small victory in the shifting power dynamics between them. Jack observed their interaction with the practiced eye of someone who diagnosed problems for a living. This relationship was undergoing major repairs, outcome still uncertain. As the morning progressed, Emma moved through the community gathering with natural grace, listening to concerns, explaining elements of the revised plan, building bridges her father had never bothered to construct. Jack remained nearby, providing quiet support while observing the transformation unfolding around them. She belongs here. Elizabeth appeared beside Jack, watching her daughter with evident pride. Not in a corporate boardroom, but in spaces where real people's lives are affected by decisions. Jack nodded agreement. She sees what others miss, the human element behind the blueprints and spreadsheets. Like you, Elizabeth's observation carried no judgment, simply recognition. You see the parts others overlook, whether in engines or situations. Before Jack could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from Caroline. Ethan wants to know when you're coming. Keeps asking about Emma, too. The message grounded Jack amid the corporate and community politics swirling around them. Whatever resolution emerged here at Oakwood, his priority remained constant: Ethan's well-being, their life together, the home they'd built. Everything okay? Emma had noticed his distraction, moving to his side with intuitive awareness of his concerns. Ethan's getting impatient at the lake house. Jack showed her the message. Apparently, he's asking for both of us. Emma's expression softened. We could leave soon. The foundation team has things well in hand here. The suggestion reflected their growing understanding that while Oakwood represented an important victory, their shared life extended beyond this single battle. Jack nodded agreement, relief evident in his posture. They made their goodbyes, Emma arranging to meet with Elizabeth the following day to discuss her advisory role in the project. Richard acknowledged their departure with professional courtesy, the emotional distance between father and daughter unchanged despite the corporate concessions. He may never truly understand why this matters so much to you, Jack observed as they walked toward his truck. Some people can't see beyond balance sheets and profit margins. Emma's gaze lingered on her father now, deep in conversation with project engineers. I don't need his understanding anymore. Just his compliance with doing the right thing, even if for the wrong reasons. The maturity in her perspective struck Jack, her ability to accept partial victories, to work with imperfect allies toward better outcomes. That's rare, you know. Most people need everyone to agree with their reasons, not just their actions. I learned that from you. Emma's admission came simply directly. Watching how you navigate the world for Ethan's sake, compromising when necessary, but never on core principles. Jack absorbed her words as they reached the truck, where the compliment settling deeper than expected. Ready to go surprise a 6-year-old who's apparently been asking about you nonstop. Emma's smile bloomed fully, perhaps the first unguarded expression of joy since she'd appeared on his porch that rainy night. More than ready. The drive to Caroline's lake house took them through changing landscapes, urban density, giving way to suburbs, then rural expanses. Finally, the wooded shoreline of Michigan's lake country. With each mile, the Spencer development drama receded, replaced by anticipation of reunion with Ethan. What will you tell him? Emma asked as they neared their destination. About everything that happened. Jack considered the question, balancing honesty against age-appropriate explanations. That sometimes grown-ups disagree about important things, but when they work together and listen to each other, they can find better solutions. A simplified version, but essentially accurate. Emma gazed out at the lake appearing through the trees. Do you think he'll understand why we sent him away during all this? He'll understand that we wanted to keep him safe while we fixed a problem. Jack turned onto the gravel drive leading to Caroline's property. Kids are resilient, Emma. They don't need perfect explanations, just honest ones. The truck had barely stopped when the lake house door burst open, Ethan flying down the steps toward them. Jack caught his son in a bear hug, the boys' excited chatter filling the space between them. Dad, we caught 5 fish and I learned to swim without floaties, and Aunt Caroline let me stay up late to see the stars, and... Ethan's stream of words halted abruptly as he spotted Emma emerging from the passenger side. Emma, you came too. He wiggled free from Jack's embrace and launched himself toward Emma, who caught him with surprised delight. I missed you, Emma. Did you and Dad fix the problem? Is the bad man gone? Emma met Jack's gaze over Ethan's head, searching for guidance on how to respond. Jack nodded, encouragement, honesty appropriately framed. We did fix the problem, Ethan. Emma hugged the boy close. And the man wasn't exactly bad, just making wrong choices. Now he's starting to make better ones. Ethan absorbed this with solemn consideration. Like when I took Tommy's dinosaur at school, but then I gave it back and said, sorry. Something like that. Emma agreed, setting him down but keeping hold of his hand. Sometimes grown-ups need help understanding when they've made wrong choices too. This explanation satisfied Ethan, who promptly switched to showing them his fishing rod and describing in detail the huge fish that had gotten away. Carolyn appeared on the porch, watching their reunion with knowing eyes and a welcoming smile. The afternoon passed in lakeside simplicity, skipping stones, building sandcastles, sharing lunch on Caroline's screen porch. Jack observed Emma's integration into their family rhythms, her natural rapport with Ethan, her genuine interest in Caroline's stories. Here, away from Spencer, corporate politics, and Oakwood community tensions, he could see clearly what had been forming between them. Not just alliance or friendship, but something with deeper foundations and higher aspirations, a connection built on shared values and complementary strengths tested by conflict and strengthened through resolution. Evening found them on the dock, Ethan between them, legs dangling above the water as sunset painted the lake in amber and gold. The boy's head nodded against Emma's shoulder, excitement finally giving way to exhaustion. "He's out," Jack whispered, noting his son's closed eyes and deep breathing. "I should get him to bed." Emma nodded gently, supporting Ethan's weight as Jack gathered him up. Together they navigated back to the lake house, working in wordless coordination to get the boy into pajamas and tucked it into bed without fully waking him. Outside Ethan's room, Jack paused, the domesticity of the moment settling around them like a comfortable blanket. "Thank you for everything, Oakwood, standing up to your father, being here with Ethan." Emma shook her head, emotion making words difficult. "I should be thanking you. When I showed up on your porch that night, I was running away from everything. You gave me somewhere to run toward instead." The truth of her observation resonated between them, how they had each provided what the other needed most. Jack with stability and principled support, Emma with purpose beyond daily survival and hope for a fuller future. On Caroline's porch, nighttime wrapped around them in gentle darkness, lake waves providing rhythmic background to conversation that flowed without effort or expectation. "What happens when we go back?" Emma's question acknowledged the temporary nature of their lakeside reprieve. "To reality, to your job, to my father's world." Jack considered the practical challenges ahead, his precarious employment situation, Emma's need for independence from her family's wealth, their developing relationship amid Ethan's needs and sensitivities. "We take it one day at a time." Jack's answer came from hard-earned wisdom rather than avoidance. "Build something solid step by step, not all at once." Emma nodded, understanding the mechanics approach to construction. Careful assembly testings, connections, ensuring foundations before adding height. "I'd like that, building something real together." The word together carried weight, possibility, commitment beyond their initial unlikely alliance. Jack reached for her hand in the darkness. The connection between them no longer tentative but intentional. "Ethan asked me something interesting before he fell asleep." Emma's voice carried a hint of wonder. "He wanted to know if I was going to be his new mom." Jack tensed slightly, parental protectiveness rising. "I'm sorry, he shouldn't have put you on the spot like that." "No, it's okay." Emma turned toward him, moonlight illuminating her face. "I told him that becoming a family takes time, that we're all still getting to know each other, but that I care about him very much and about his dad too." The careful, thoughtful response, respecting Ethan's question while acknowledging the complexity involved, confirmed what Jack already knew. Emma understood what truly mattered, valued what was genuinely important. "What did he say to that?" Jack asked, curious about his son's reaction. Emma's smile carried both amusement and tenderness. "He said time moves really slow when you're 6, but he was willing to wait if I was." Jack laughed softly, recognizing his son's impatient nature wrapped in attempted maturity. Wise beyond his years, apparently. "He takes after his father that way." Emma's observation came with gentle certainty, seeing what matters, standing firm when it counts. The compliment settled between them. Acknowledgement of qualities each recognized in the other, strength tempered by compassion, principles balanced with pragmatism, courage to fight necessary battles while knowing which ones to concede. Morning would bring practical concerns, returning to Chicago, navigating Emma's new advisory role with the Oakwood project, rebuilding Jack's employment prospects after Richard's interference. But tonight offered something precious, space to acknowledge what had grown between them amid crisis and resolution. "I think," Jack began carefully, "that Ethan might be onto something. About us, about possibilities." Emma's hand tightened around his affirmation without words. "I think so too." They sat together in companionable silence, the future stretching before them. Not perfect or certain, but rich with potential. Neither had imagined when Emma appeared on Jack's porch that rainy night. Sometimes the ones who show up in the storm are the ones who help clear the skies afterward. And sometimes when you open your door to someone seeking shelter, you find yourself welcomed into a larger world in return.